Y'all always talking about the city girls. Like, the city girls ain't give y'all raggedy y'all personality. Don't play with me. Sick of y'all.
Just imagine this. Your house gets broken into, gunshots go off, your family is traumatized, and instead of the criminals, you end up in handcuffs. That's exactly what happened to GloRilla. And just when she thought things couldn't get worse, JT came with the coldest move of her career, turning Glo's lowest moment into her biggest humiliation. This wasn't just rap beef anymore. It was betrayal, revenge, and one of the darkest chapters hip-hop has ever seen. Just days after GloRilla's marijuana arrest made headlines, JT dropped a video so sharp and fiery that fans wasted no time calling it pure shade. The timing was too close to be coincidence, and the internet instantly lit up with speculation.
GloRilla was arrested in Georgia on felony drug charges and was booked Tuesday in Forsyth County, Georgia. She posted a $22,000 bond. What they didn't know was that she had family staying with her, and her family,
What began as subtle tension between the two quickly erupted into a full-blown feud after one fiery clip surfaced online. JT made it clear she wasn't holding anything back, sparking conversations all across hip-hop. At the same time, fans were still processing the shocking news of GloRilla's arrest on serious felony drug charges in Forsyth County, Georgia, after her home was broken into while she was away at the WNBA All-Star Game. With so much chaos unfolding at once, the atmosphere in the culture was electric, and everyone was paying attention.
I always talking about the city girls. Like, the city girls ain't give y'all raggedy y'all personality. Don't play with me.
GloRilla herself had to jump online twice just to set the record straight. She explained that while she was in Indianapolis for the WNBA All-Star Game, her home was broken into, and instead of chasing the suspects, authorities seemed more focused on the cannabis found inside. But JT wasn't about to let the moment pass quietly. She hopped on a live stream, serving what the culture calls indirect but deadly smoke, shots aimed straight at GloRilla without ever dropping her government name. Still, it didn't take much for fans to connect the dots. The energy was obvious, and the message was instantly understood.
JT snubbed her off, like in a very nasty, catty way. GloRilla went in to try to speak, and JT kind of gave like, GloRilla wasn't feeling that. And GloRilla threw a drink at JT, and then the girl.
This wasn't the slurred rant of someone talking recklessly. It came across as calculated payback, delivered with precision. The tension between JT and GloRilla had already boiled over weeks earlier at the MTV VMAs, where things escalated into a full-on brawl that ended with security rushing in after Glo allegedly tossed a drink, or maybe even a purse. But here's the kicker. JT's sharp energy wasn't just a random jab. Word on the streets is that the bad blood traces back to Beyoncé's concert just a week before the VMAs, where both women were in attendance. According to whispers, something went down that night involving JT and Young Miami. And ever since, the vibe has been toxic.
I was prepping the other day, and I couldn't even prep for this show because I was reading about you on Twitter. And I was like, everybody was blowing on my phone. Did you see what's going on Twitter? So tell me, why did you feel the need to pop up on JT so hard?
Everything just always everything. At the end of the day, that they gonna in.
Yeah, hello. and it's all.
At Beyoncé's concert, rumors spread that JT and Young Miami tried to make their way into Yo Gotti's VIP section, where GloRilla was already posted up. Security wasn't having it and escorted them out like any other fans, which allegedly left JT feeling humiliated. By the time the VMAs came around, JT saw her chance to flip the script and embarrass Glo in front of the entire industry. But GloRilla wasn't about to let that slide. Witnesses say that after Glo hurled something in JT's direction, all bets were off, hands flew, and the backstage area turned into pure chaos. From that point on, there was no love lost between them. The tension that started the week of Beyoncé's show only grew, spilling into a violent clash at the VMAs. And when GloRilla later faced felony charges, JT couldn't resist twisting the knife a little deeper. What makes it even wilder is that despite sparking much of the drama herself, JT managed to flip the narrative and paint herself as the victim, a move that left the culture divided. Her behavior during that live stream spoke volumes, subtle, passive-aggressive gestures laced with a smug sense of superiority. She touched on themes of loyalty, betrayal, and people meddling with her business, and it didn't take long for viewers to connect the dots back to her beef with GloRilla. The timing couldn't have been more ruthless. Just hours after the blogs confirmed Glo was facing felony charges, JT launched into her rant as if she had been waiting for the perfect moment. "This is my time," she seemed to signal, capitalizing on Glo's downfall while the headlines were hot. But here's the twist. The roots of their feud run deeper than Beyoncé's concert or the chaos at the VMAs. Behind the scenes lies a mess of personal betrayals, industry politics, and whispers of street drama that even the most seasoned insiders hesitate to discuss. Many point back to September 2022, when GloRilla and Cardi B dropped Tomorrow 2, a record-shattering collaboration that shifted the spotlight and quietly ignited the real tension between JT and Glo.
The purse.
Everything is everything.
Listen, and I gotta talk to you about Megan Thee Stallion and the new track. So tell me all about working with her on such a great song.
I love Megan. She's a wonderful person. She's so fun. That's my girl. You know what I'm saying? And I taught her how to twerk.
Oh no, for real?
Yeah,
you taught that how to twerk.
I taught her how to twerk. Yeah.
Oh man, that's amazing.
It might seem crazy, but it's.
What many fans don't realize is that Cardi's explosive verse on Tomorrow 2 reportedly sparked major tension with JT, with some suggesting the lines carried subtle jabs at her and the City Girls. The situation only got messier when JT's close ties to Nicki Minaj came into play, a connection that naturally placed her on the opposite side of Cardi, who's had a long-standing feud with Nicki. What started as industry competition quickly morphed into something personal, bitter, and far more spiteful than anyone on the outside could have imagined. Industry watchers soon began dissecting every lyric, interview, and social media post from both women, convinced they were laced with subliminal shots at one another. The hip-hop audience, always hungry for drama, eagerly picked sides and magnified every minor slight, creating an echo chamber where reconciliation was nearly impossible. But to truly understand why this feud feels different from the usual industry squabbles, we have to look at GloRilla's roots. Her story explains not only her resilience but also why this conflict carries such intensity. Born Gloria Hallelujah Woods on July 28, 1999, in Memphis, Tennessee, she grew up in the Fraser neighborhood of North Memphis, a place that's far from easy. Once a solid middle-class community, Fraser had transformed into a tough environment by the time Glo was coming of age. It was in these unforgiving streets that she was molded, developing the grit and edge that would eventually turn her into one of rap's most unshakable forces. Fraser's decline hit GloRilla's family hard. As the eighth of 10 children in a large blended household, Gloria's childhood was shaped by constant economic struggle. Survival was the priority, with nights spent on pallets instead of proper beds. But what makes her story even more striking is the contrast between poverty and the intensely strict religious environment she was raised in. Her parents kept a tight grip on what she was exposed to, so much so that she was homeschooled until the 5th grade. Holidays like Halloween, Easter, Christmas, and Valentine's Day were strictly forbidden, leaving only Thanksgiving and the 4th of July as exceptions. Secular music was completely off-limits. Instead, the sounds of gospel legends like Kirk Franklin and Donnie McClurkin filled the home. From ages 5 to 12, Gloria herself performed solos in the church choir, fully expected to grow into a gospel singer. But as often happens, the more something is restricted, the more tempting it becomes. She and her siblings started plotting ways to sneak in the very music they were denied. Ironically, those same prohibitions lit the spark for GloRilla's earliest entrepreneurial instincts, pushing her to carve her own path into the music world. That's when things started to get serious. As kids, GloRilla and her siblings began sneaking secular music into their lives by hustling CDs from Walmart, mainly albums by Drake and Lil Wayne. One of her older brothers even turned it into a side hustle, reselling the CDs at school and uploading the tracks onto a PlayStation so they could have secret listening sessions away from their parents' watchful eyes. Before her breakthrough, Glo worked regular jobs like Walmart and the Checkers drive-thru, often going live on social media during her shifts just to keep herself entertained. By 2018 and 2019, she decided to leave those jobs behind and go all in on music with her family's encouragement. She started recording in local studios and dropped her first freestyle on Facebook, marking the beginning of her grind. Everything shifted in 2022 when she and producer Hitkid created FNF, Let's Go, in just 30 minutes. The raw anthem about independence and single life took off instantly, spreading like wildfire through TikTok's #FNF challenge. The song cracked the Billboard Hot 100's top 50, caught the attention of Yo Gotti, and by July 2022, she was officially signed as the first female artist to his CMG label. Less than a year later, FNF scored a Grammy nomination for Best Rap Performance at the 65th Annual Grammy Awards. It was a meteoric rise, from local grind to global spotlight almost overnight. But the spark that truly ignited her feud with JT came shortly after, when she teamed up with Cardi B for a career-defining collaboration. Tomorrow 2 with Cardi B became GloRilla's first top 10 hit and went double platinum, a career milestone that cemented her as one of rap's fastest rising stars. But with that success came consequences that would shadow her for years. Behind the scenes, Tension was already brewing. What began as a straightforward professional rivalry soon shifted into something darker and more personal. Industry insiders started pointing out subliminal shots, veiled lyrics, subtle interview remarks, and cryptic social media posts that hinted at hidden conflicts. The hip-hop community, always hungry for drama, took those whispers and magnified them, turning every perceived slight into evidence of beef. The atmosphere grew so toxic that reconciliation seemed impossible. Eventually, the tension boiled over in the most public way imaginable. When GloRilla dropped her mixtape Anyways, Life's Great, fans zeroed in on tracks like Nut Quick and Out Loud Thinking, which many believed contained direct responses to the escalating feud. What had been simmering quietly was now undeniably out in the open. By April 2024, the rivalry had reached its breaking point with the release of GloRilla's track that subtly addressed the drama. On it, she rapped, "Me and JT ain't the best of friends, but we ain't beefing. No, it's always hating, and they keep it a secret." What Glo framed as a call for unity among women in rap, JT took as the ultimate insult, an act of betrayal disguised as solidarity. JT didn't hold back. She fired off a barrage of social media posts that laid bare just how deep the animosity ran. She exposed tension behind their past collaborations, labeling GloRilla clumsy and fake. In one of the boldest moves, she even posted a series of Glo's old mugshots with one slot left empty, an ominous suggestion that she was ready to add another with her own hands. GloRilla struck back just as fiercely, accusing JT of the same underhanded energy she was being blamed for and clowning JT's wigs in the process. She admitted to throwing a purse at JT during their infamous VMAs altercation and threatened to pull up at one of JT's backyard events to settle things face-to-face. What had started as industry shade had now spiraled into one of the messiest, most personal beefs in recent hip-hop history. The back-and-forth didn't stop at the purse incident. For hours, JT and GloRilla traded insults online, taking aim at everything from each other's looks to their career moves. Their fanbases only poured gasoline on the fire, Big Glo supporters clashing with JT's juvies in a non-stop social media war that made the feud even harder to contain. By November 2024, though, both women appeared to wave the white flag. They publicly shifted the blame onto their fans and insisted they never truly wanted the fight in the first place. GloRilla even said in an interview, "I didn't come in wanting to get into beef with anybody, but me and JT actually cool." JT echoed the sentiment, and for a brief moment, it seemed like the beef had been put to rest. But underneath the carefully worded interviews and polite gestures, the resentment hadn't gone anywhere. What the public saw was a truce. What was really there was a facade. And like lava beneath the surface, the tension was only waiting for the right moment to erupt again. That carefully crafted truce didn't last. It came crashing down in the most explosive way possible. In July 2025, GloRilla was suddenly in handcuffs, and while the headlines focused on the arrest itself, what the public didn't realize was that far darker allegations were waiting to surface. Claims that would expose just how deep the animosity between her and JT truly ran, unraveling a tangled web of betrayal, conspiracy, and revenge that made their public feud look almost petty in comparison. To understand the gravity of it, though, you have to look beyond the flashy news blurbs and dive into the real events that led to her downfall, a story far more complex and chaotic than what most people heard. Because when enemies strike at your lowest point, it's more than beef, it's the ultimate violation. What should have been GloRilla's victory lap in the summer of 2025 instead turned into the backdrop for one of the most brutal betrayals hip-hop had ever seen. GloRilla's performance at the WNBA All-Star Game halftime show in Indianapolis on July 19, 2025, should have been another highlight in her meteoric rise. Instead, it became the opening chapter of her darkest chapter yet. While she was on stage celebrating success, trouble was unfolding hundreds of miles away in Georgia. Around 1:30 a.m. on July 20th, deputies from the Forsyth County Sheriff's Office responded to a burglary call at her home in the upscale St. Malo Country Club district of Metro Atlanta. According to reports, 3 intruders forced their way inside, aiming to snatch jewelry and other valuables. Family members who were inside the house were left terrified when gunfire erupted. Someone inside the home had pulled a weapon and fired shots, forcing the burglars to flee. But instead of ending there, the situation took a bizarre and twisted turn that exposed just how broken the system can be. During their investigation, deputies called in the Lanny Regional Drug Task Force, obtained a search warrant, and scoured the property. What they discovered wasn't stolen jewelry. It was 2 jars of THC wax, classified as a Schedule I controlled substance in Georgia, along with nearly 3 pounds of marijuana. And here's the irony. The victim of the break-in was the one who wound up in handcuffs. GloRilla's home had been violated, her family traumatized, but it was her freedom that was suddenly on the line. Her family was left shaken, yet GloRilla was the one staring down felony charges. That's the definition of backwards justice. On July 22, 2025, she turned herself into Forsyth County authorities and was officially charged with 2 felonies, possession of marijuana and possession of a Schedule I controlled substance. She posted a $22,260 bond and was released the same day, but the damage to her reputation had already been done. Frustrated and exhausted, Glo took to social media to vent. "Long story short, my house gets invaded, and I'm the only one who ends up arrested," she wrote, pointing out the absurdity of being punished instead of protected. She explained that while she was performing at the WNBA All-Star Game in Indianapolis, her home was broken into, and instead of focusing on the intruders, investigators zeroed in on the cannabis inside her home. But while Glo was struggling with being victimized twice, first by the burglars and then by the system, JT was waiting in the shadows, ready to strike. What followed has been described as one of the most ruthless psychological maneuvers hip-hop has ever seen. By late July 2025, shocking allegations began circulating. That GloRilla had secretly plotted to have JT jumped during a Memphis show, allegedly planning to time the attack alongside JT's feud with Sukihana to create confusion and deflect suspicion. According to multiple sources, Gloss Up, a fellow Memphis rapper and longtime friend of GloRilla, played a crucial role in exposing the alleged plot. She reportedly spied on JT and handed over the group chats as proof, revealing the plan. At the time, Gloss Up was signed to Quality Control, the same label as JT, and many believe that loyalty to her label mates outweighed her bond with Glo. This betrayal allegedly triggered a heated FaceTime confrontation between Glo and JT, during which the so-called muscle that had been hired for the job supposedly backed out of the scheme. In that moment, what had once been professional rivalry officially crossed into something far more dangerous and deeply personal. So when news of GloRilla's arrest broke, JT saw her opening for the ultimate revenge. But instead of the usual social media theatrics or subliminal disses in music, she chose a far more intimate and psychologically devastating approach. Insiders claim JT recorded a video message specifically for Glo, not meant for public eyes but delivered privately through trusted middlemen. According to those who saw it, the video was chilling. JT seated calmly, speaking directly into the camera with the cold confidence of someone who had been waiting for this moment all along.